You're listening to Finding Fortitude, a podcast that aims to help former athletes take good care of their minds and bodies through sustainable, evidence-based health habits. I'm your host, Dr. Tori Williams, a physical therapist, coach, and fellow former athlete who is ready to be part of the change in healthcare and who is on a mission to learn and share about all things health and well-being so that you can be equipped with the knowledge and tools to live your best life. As a reminder, nothing shared on this podcast should be considered medical advice. Let's get started. Hello, and welcome back to the final episode of Finding Fortitude for 2023. We made it to the end of the year. How are you doing, my friend? I know this is often the time of year when many of us are feeling tired and burnt out from the year. And if that's you, I really hope that you're able to prioritize rest and give yourself the care that you need right now. I was definitely feeling stressed and run down at this time last year, so at that time I made a pact with myself that I would not let that happen again this year. And I actually think I did a fairly good job of that. I definitely feel better right now than I did at this time last year, but I know I could do even better. I know I need to continue to, refine my boundaries and get to a point where I can truly feel rested and at peace this time of year, because that's something that I value. Obviously, this is going to require some very intentional effort and deconditioning to try to avoid getting caught up in all of the holiday hustle and bustle at the end of the year, and it will certainly come with new challenges as life changes. But something I just did before hitting record on this podcast for myself, which I think is a huge and important step for me as someone who's really trying to think less and get into action more, is I blocked off in my work schedule some time in the last 2 weeks of the year so that I'd have some intentional room to rest, recover, and reflect, which are 3 of the things that I want to encourage you to do today. So if you're feeling some type of way right now at the end of this year, I'd encourage you to do something similar if you can, especially if you're someone who tends to overbook yourself or feel, socially, emotionally, financially, all of the above, drained at this time of year, which is probably most of us. So go ahead, use this opportunity to block off some time, even if it's just a day on a weekend or submitting a vacation request from work so that you can do, as the great Moira Rose says, and focus on your critical self-care. It was a terrible Moira impression, but 12 out of 10 would recommend. Okay, that being said, this is the last episode of 2023, so I wanted to take this opportunity to pause and reflect on this year. I think it's important that we all take time to pause and sit with the present and celebrate how far we've come. It can be so easy just to move from one thing to the next, and then before we know it, our life passes by us and we've been on autopilot. So taking intentional pauses to reflect can be crucial, I think, for our well-being, and can also help us continue to learn and grow in the future. This is obviously a great time for setting new goals, and sometimes we feel really motivated by a new year or a fresh start. So it's a great idea to ride that motivation wave if that feels right for you. And hopefully, if you clicked on this episode, you saw the title, you're hopefully feeling ready to kind of reflect on your year and plan for the next one. But because I'm all about autonomy, I think it's important to highlight that this time of year doesn't have to be all about growth and pushing yourself to get better if it doesn't feel right for you. I know that it doesn't feel right for a lot of people. And if you're feeling exhausted and burnt out right now, your time might just be better served in this moment resting, or at least leaning into other things that bring you peace or joy. If that hits home, I'll give you the chance to pause this episode, and maybe you can return back to it at a later date when you're feeling more energetically ready for this. Or, if you'd like, you can also just simply use this time to reflect and really sit with the present, instead of primarily using it as a tool to plan for the future or immediately get into action. Ultimately, it's up to you to decide what's best for you. But if you're still with me, I'm going to get into a few specific questions that you can ponder and reflect upon. But before I do that, there's one story that I wanted to tell you that I think brings up some pretty important points when it comes to reflection. I just went to a really nice end-of-year community Zoom call last week with a mentor and business coach of mine named Emma Jack. And she gave us the container to really reflect on the year. And I'm really grateful she held that space for us. I found it really helpful for a few key reasons that I'd like to share with you. First, Emma's presence is always very warm and accepting, but she brought the vibes by playing some calming music while we reflected. And I made the choice to keep my video off so I could really get in the zone and not worry if other people were looking at me. But it's also a group that I've been in many times before, so I know that no one would be judging me, even though I am usually one of the only Americans amidst the sea of Canadians. So thank you for accepting me. Emma also provided a structure by providing specific prompts that we could go through and by setting a timer to guide us through each section of questions. And with this, something Emma said that really stuck with me was that we could come back and revisit these prompts at a later date, and that this didn't need to be the final draft. It was okay if what we came up with was more surface level. And I really love that because I find that oftentimes we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to be, really polished or really deep or profound, especially with journaling type things. And that just tends to bring up more resistance to actually doing the thing, especially if you're a recovering perfectionist like I am. The last thing that Emma's call reminded me of was how enlightening it is to sit with my own thoughts and look within for answers. All too often, we look outward for validation, recognition, answers, all the things, especially as former athletes. But most of the time, we already have what we need if we just take the time to get quiet and listen inward. And that is very uncomfortable sometimes. And even if we don't have the answers, we can usually figure out the next best step, even if that's asking for help, which many times it is. Of course, listening inward takes practice, but when we do it regularly, we build up self-trust, which can be really helpful in a lot of different areas of life, pain and injury management being one of them. So, as we go into these reflection questions that I'll present to you, I'd encourage you to keep just a few things in mind. 1, set aside a specific amount of time to reflect. Set a timer for 2 to 5 minutes per question and stick to it. It's okay if you don't hit the nail on the head the first time through. You can always revisit the prompts and continue to go deeper over time. 2, do a vibe check. Are you in a quiet place? Can you put your phone away so it doesn't distract you? Do you want a friend or a partner to reflect with you? Can you light a candle, turn on some music, snuggle up with a blanket, or do some breath work or meditation to get you in the right headspace? How can you set up the environment in a way that supports the work that you want to do? Okay, so with all of that being said, you could probably Google end of the year reflection questions and find a million different prompts, but I'm going to aim to simplify things a bit by giving you 4 distinct buckets, if you will, of questions to reflect on. If you're listening to this in the car or working out, then maybe don't do this right now, or just, think on them and potentially write them down for later. Okay, so here they are. The 4 buckets are finish, frame, forward, and flourish. Okay, number 1 is finish. So in this bucket, we have questions like, what would you like to be finished with and leave behind in 2023? This could be things that didn't go so well for you this year, habits or behaviors you'd like to drop, or anything that's been weighing heavy on you that you'd like to release. Think about who or what has no longer or never has served you, and let's make like Queen Elsa and let it go. Okay. Number 2, frame. What did you learn about yourself in 2023 that you want to highlight? What lessons were you met with? Good, bad, anything in between that you want to put in a picture frame and remember. And this one's really important, what small or big wins can you celebrate and give some recognition to? Celebrate those damn wins. Give yourself the recognition you deserve. 3, forward. What would you like to bring forward with you into 2024? Which habits, behaviors, or energy would you like to keep with you or continue into this new year? And why? Maybe you spend a little time reflecting on why that would be important for you in this next year. And finally, number 4, flourish. What are you looking forward to in the new year? What goals do you have for yourself? And what can you do to set yourself up for success in terms of your mindset and environment to reach those goals and allow yourself to flourish? Remember that big goals are awesome and you should set them, but don't forget to also set some smaller process-based goals that will help you move towards your bigger goals and let you know that you're heading the right direction. And again, it's okay if you don't have any specific goals in mind right now. Sometimes the start of the year is just not the right time for you to start something new, and that's more than okay. It's also 100% okay for your goals to change and evolve throughout the year. So don't be ashamed to ride that new wave of New Year's excitement to help motivate you to set new goals and start something new right now. I don't think I've said goals enough times. Goals. Okay, so those are the 4 buckets: finish, frame, forward, and flourish. Feel free to revisit those anytime you need. Go back in and refine them, go deeper, pull things from them, whatever you might need. So you might put those in a journal or on a Google Doc or on a note on your phone, whatever feels best for you and most accessible. Okay, it's time to wrap this up. But before I go, I really just want to extend my sincerest gratitude for listening to this podcast and supporting my small business. I have recorded 11 episodes total this year, of which I've published 9. This is the 9th episode. And I just looked over the stats from this year, and you all have listened in from 7 different countries. 7! That's amazing. I am so incredibly grateful. Honestly, this is just the beginning. I can't wait to continue to learn and grow alongside you as this podcast, this small business, and the world around us continues to evolve and change over time. I want to recognize that there's a lot of things you could be doing with your time, and the fact that you decide to spend it here listening to me and my guests is pretty special. And I don't take that for granted, so thank you from the bottom of my heart. Okay? Wow, I did it. I did this in 15 minutes. Let's go. All right, that is it for today. Thank you again so much for listening. I'm super excited for a new year of podcasts in 2024. And I hope you have a happy new year. And I'll talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.